All right, friends, part two. Here we go. Dr. Will Cole and I get into so many things in this episode. Where you can get regenerative meat, because even I didn't know. Locally, I was like, how do you even get this? And apparently you can get it at Walmart and Costco and all kinds of places. He's going to share that. Talking about foods that love you back and lifestyle choices that love you back. I love this concept because I think it's just a better way at looking at things rather than being so restrictive with ourselves, just saying, yeah, that food doesn't love me back, or that drink doesn't love me back. I'm not going to do it anymore. We'll get more into that as well. Orthorexia. That's a whole new term I've never heard of. You're going to want to know what it is and so much more. So here is part two of my conversation with Dr. Will Cole. Enjoy.
And it's interesting, the vegan, that with that study that we talked about, the JAMA study, the Netflix documentary was based on, after the 8 weeks, only one of the participants wanted to continue being a vegan. So I think that's the other part too. It's like, what's the sustainability for the average person? Mm-hmm. So maybe, like you said, like if you want to eat more plants and more whole foods, like this aspiring vegetarian concept, I think if getting people to eat more whole foods, it's a win-win, no matter what it looks like.
Where do you even get regenerative meat? Like, I saw the guy whose farm they've had since the 1800s. I feel like those are few and far between, because from what you hear, again, I haven't looked up the deeds and the trusts myself, but you hear Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland, and I just see the evil horns, and God only knows what he's doing and what people are saying he's doing. And whether it's him or BlackRock or whatever, they're all buying everything. Where do you even get this meat? And I'm grateful that there is that little farm there, but you know, how many of those are really going to be able to withstand whatever pressures are being placed on them financially to continue to do that?
So the great blessing that we have right now for the average American out there, not all Americans, but the average American, there's more choices in the grocery store now more than ever. So let me back up a little bit. I think that when you have access to it, going to a farmer's market and getting to know your farmer is a good tip. I know it's not everybody's going to want to do that because we like convenience, but going to a farmer's market, getting to know your farmer, getting to know their farming practices, labels of organic, et cetera, doesn't matter as much as knowing where your food comes from. And a lot of these labels, like organic, cost a lot of money. For the farmer to invest in and get these labels put on their packaging, and they don't have the money to do that. They're farmers. So
I'm sure they actually make it hard for them too.
Oh, I'm sure. It's red tape, so difficult and expensive.
Never thought of that.
So I would rather someone shop locally, support local farmers, and then not have all the labels, but no, you can go visit their farm. Many of them will invite you over there to say, like, this is what we do. And they're regenerative farming, and they're local, and you'll never hear about them. But another step to consider there, if you don't want to do that, when you go to Costco, go to Sam's Club, Walmart, I don't know if it's still the case, but they're the largest buyer of organic food in the United States because of their sheer size. So not to say every Walmart's going to have all the selection, but you're going to have better for you options there of grass-fed beef, et cetera. One brand I want to call out that you can get at Whole Foods and you can get it online is Force of Nature. I have no connection with them other than I know the guys that started the company. They're the guys that started Epic, if you know that brand. And then they sold Epic. They've like the bison bars. You can get them in Target. So you'll see Epic Provisions, I think is their full name of the brand. They sold Epic and they wanted to stay in the regenerative farm business. And they started Force of Nature, which it's ground beef, turkey, bison, deer. I mean, they have the most random meats. And they'll even have these ancestral blends where they blend regular meat with some organ meats because the average American doesn't want to consume things like liver.
Yeah.
So
oh my God, no way. I really want that.
Yeah. So this is not an ad for Force of Nature, but I love it because I use it personally. I recommend it to telehealth patients because a lot of people don't like the taste. I don't like the taste of liver.
I tried. It's so hard. And I have Will. And I was like, ugh.
No, yeah, it's not for me. So they make it a lot more palatable because they cut it, they mask it, and you think you're just having a regular burger, but it has like a third of it or so. It has the organ meats. It's called Force of Nature. You get all types, and you can order online at Whole Foods. And there's lots of brands like that are bringing regenerative farming to the masses
Hmm.
and doing it in a scalable way. Because that's the one critique that the environmental community that's not for regenerative farming or poo-poos it, they'll say, well, it's not scalable to feed the world. And I think places like Force of Nature are doing the work to do this on scale, which I'm an advocate for.
Okay, so back to that burger or the meat with the mixed in liver. Is it called
Yeah.
something specific?
Yeah. It's called the Ancestral Blend.
Ancestral blend. I'm
Yeah.
so excited because I'm always trying to figure out how to get different nutrients and minerals and things into my diet. I really tried so hard with the liver. I mean, I put garlic up the wazoo on that thing. It was horrible, but I know we need it. So I think that's so
Hmm.
cool. Um, so, and it's exciting to know that you can go into Walmart and Costco and Sam's Club and find these options, because some people don't have access to farmers markets. First of all, I've had access. I live in Los Angeles. I've never gone to one ever.
Hmm.
Actually,
You
I've
have some great ones.
I've
You need to
walked
go.
through one before, but I've never. I barely even food shop because I've always been on a plane working.
Hmm.
But I made a list recently when I was in the Dominican Republic. I made a list of all my farmers markets because I said when I get back into town, I'm going to make the effort because I want to eat seasonally. We did a whole episode talking about seasonal eating with Alyssa Goodman. I don't know if you're familiar with Alyssa.
I know her well. Yeah,
Okay,
she's
yeah,
great.
I thought you might. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to do that, and I think that's really helpful. It's hard because, and I think what you said earlier too is we can't get overwhelmed by this. There is so much that I get super weighed down and depressed thinking about they're poisoning us from every angle. We have to just live with what we have and do what we can. Do you have a garden, by the way?
I don't. I don't. I've moved on to some property though, recently in the woods in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. So that's my goal. My goal,
Nice.
like my first full summer here, to do that.
Make a little
But yeah,
greenhouse.
yeah, something small. But no, I don't. But we have some great farmers markets here, in Western Pennsylvania. So we do that, and then we do Whole Foods,
Well,
and again,
Pennsylvania, you guys have Amish land there too.
oh yeah, we
So
have
I'm
the
sure you have great
Amish.
food from
Yeah,
them.
we have great options there, and lots of farmers that aren't Amish. Just a lot of choices there. I still think you probably have us beat for sure in California, but yeah, there's a lot of great local farmers that we like to produce. And actually, my brother-in-law is a regenerative farmer
No way.
in the area. He's from California originally and went to school out there for regenerative farming, and then moved out here. And now, so I get a lot of our stuff from him too. Again, know your farmer is a good tip. Mine just happens
Yeah.
to be my brother-in-law. Yeah.
I think it's just kind of new patterns and behaviors we have to kind of implement into our lives so that you got to break the ice. You got to just say, okay, this Saturday I'm going to put it in my calendar. I'm just going to go to the farmer's market. I'm going to figure it out. And then once you get there, you'll get into your flow. It's just getting out of that routine behavior of going to Ralph's or Pavilions or Costco, whatever it is. We're always going to have
Hmm.
to go to Costco because we're going to need all the supplies, of course. But you know what I'm saying? It's nice to have that new habit formed. And I think when you take control of your diet in that way, you get more inspired to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't call out, in a good way, call out Aldi's of all places where people want that are on a budget, they're looking for healthier options. Aldi is surprisingly going through the aisles of Aldi, which I don't do, but a lot of people on my team do it and patients do it. And there's so much organic, grass-fed produce and meat options there. So I would give them kudos as well.
Okay. We have to talk about grass-fed meat for a second
Okay.
because when my dad makes me a non-grass-fed steak versus a grass-fed steak, it's very different. The grass-fed steak has always been so hard. Have you found that to be the case? Is that the give that we have to make at that point?
No, here's the thing. I think what you're saying, I it is true that you are going to have, generally speaking, depending on the cut of meat, but if you look at generalities, I've heard this before, the regular corn-fed, grain-fed cow is going to be fatter because nature did not design that cow to consume so much grains. It's going to change their fatty acid profile because the grains are higher in these polyunsaturated fats. And that cow who is supposed to be grazing on grass year round, you're going to have a fattier cow, right? And that's going to fatten them up faster, can help them grow. And that kind of is part of that revolving door of more production and not the best living conditions, but it's about profit, right? Over the food quality. So you are right that generally speaking, that you're going to get a relative leaner cut from a grass-fed cow because it's fitter, it has less excess fat. But there are many companies that are regenerative farm grass-fed companies that will give a percentage of fattier cuts of meats with their grass-fed. So you may just have to go up in your percentage of a fattier cut with the meat that you're talking about. And then you can get some very greasy grass-fed meat products, whether it's a steak or ground beef, et cetera. So it's just a matter of finding that if you want that and you want to not have such dry grass-fed beef.
Yeah, I feel like I just want it to be, I like when I don't
Yeah.
even have to cut my steak, but that's okay. That's like extreme, but I don't want to be chewing and chewing. And I've found
Yeah.
grass-fed beef to be so harsh. So I'm going to look into that. Before I forget, I wanted to ask you about pistachios because Wonderful Pistachios is a big supporter of our show. I know we've talked a lot about food today. One of my favorite snacks is Wonderful Pistachios. I don't know if you've ever had them before.
I love the taste of pistachios, but no, they're so tasty.
So, I've been incorporating them into my salads lately, which has been super fun because, I like a little crunch in there, whether it's almonds or whatever, but I've been putting salt and vinegar pistachios into
Yum.
my salad. It's been crack. It's been delicious. So friends, besides the fact that they're tasty, Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. So that's pretty awesome. By the way, I have done that to get more protein, like
Yeah.
intentionally.
Hmm.
Do you subscribe to the whole idea that if you eat a meal and within an hour or two after, if you're still hungry, you didn't get enough protein?
Generally speaking, there's some exceptions to that, right? Depending on how active you are, your stress levels, how did you sleep the night before? There's other things to consider beyond did I eat enough or not? But that's a general good rule of thumb. If you're hungry that quickly after your meal, you need to make your meals better. Now, look, there's people that have, I mean, we have an epidemic rise of gastrointestinal gut health issues that people have poor GI motility, they're not absorbing food very well, they're not eating nutrient dense foods. So that could be a variable too, is maybe you're
Mm,
eating foods that are hard to digest, your body's not absorbing it very well. Maybe you're not eating a lot of nutrient dense foods that is highly satiating. So that could be another reason too. It's not necessarily the quantity of food, but the quality of food that
yeah.
could be determining you're hungry. But yes, if you're eating nutrient dense foods, you're eating until satiety at your meal, and then you think you've had enough, but then you're hungry shortly after. I would look at maybe adding in some extra calories. I don't want you to force feed yourself. I don't want you to, feel sick after eating. But over time, as you improve metabolic flexibility, you're not going to need those snacks in between meals. You may
Yeah.
need them for a while as you're healing your body, as you're improving metabolic health, as you're improving gut health and absorption. Yeah, don't shame yourself. If you want to have some snacks, have them. But over time, maybe bring those things, like you said, like bring those pistachios on into your meal to up the amount of calories so you're not needing to snack. If you want to snack, no shame.
Yeah.
But needing to snack is different than one thing, right? Like I need to, or I'm gonna be hangry monster and I'm gonna have to take a nap. That's something different than, hey, I want to. I want people to have food freedom. So there's a distinction there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been adding them into my salads and then I add them into my yogurt concoction. And so I get a little crunch in there.
What's in the yogurt concoction? I want to know
So
about
it
this.
depends. I usually will do a coconut yogurt with some cinnamon and some just roasted plain pistachios, little walnuts. And then if I want to make it into a dessert, which sometimes I will, I'll throw a little raw honey on top, like a half a teaspoon because I've got the diabetes. So that's my little treat. Um, so yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm going to wrap this out just so people know if you want to try them, you guys can go to www.wonderfulpistachios.com, snag a bag or multiple as we do. If you come into my house, literally Kevin and I travel with these. He gets the huge bags. I keep one big bag in my travel bag, but I keep the little ones in my car because sometimes you're on the go and you need a snack because you're going to miss a
Yeah.
meal. So this is what I do.
Yeah.
Um, we do what we can. Um, One other thing about a diet, you were talking about not all diets, even just vegan, um, is good. The keto diet long term, I'm wondering what you think about because when my mom was first diagnosed, I had researched it really quickly to help her with the brain cancer. And I didn't love the fact that it was so much high fats. I was like, an abundance of high
Yeah.
fats. I want her to live a long time. This isn't for me. I think what this is you can't have sugar, mom, but you can have some bacon, you can have some cream, you can have your cheese, but not in
Mhm.
abundance. And it really worked for us really well. I wonder what you think about that diet.
I actually wrote my first book, actually. I've had four books. My first book came out in 2018. It was how I would advocate the average person to do it from a lifestyle standpoint. I called it Ketotarian. It was sort of a Mediterranean ketogenic diet that was cyclical. So that's how I advocated for the average person. And it's lots of, like you said, nuts and seeds, soaking them, sprouting them if someone has digestive issues, but enjoying nuts and seeds, having things like avocados, olives, having things like wild caught fish, grass-fed beef, and lots of fiber-rich vegetables, right? Because fiber is inherently a carb, but fiber-rich foods like vegetables behave very differently to your blood sugar than refined carbohydrates without fiber. So it's a very fiber-rich, whole food-based ketogenic diet that I do advocate people to do if they have metabolic issues, inflammatory problems, blood sugar issues, neurological problems. There's a lot of research and ways that you can use ketosis as a way to improve your health. It's a way to balance your blood sugar, but beta hydroxybutyrate is the main ketone your body's making. It's what researchers call an epigenetic modulator, meaning it does really fascinating things, beneficial things for your body. It works on inflammation cascades, so it lowers things like NF-kappa B, these NLRP3 inflammasomes, these pro-inflammatory cytokines. So we know inflammation is the commonality between just about every health problem. So it's a tool within the toolbox, ketosis, to lower inflammation, improve mitochondrial health, improve brain health, and blood sugar, metabolic health. But more isn't always better, and having to do it forever and ever isn't necessarily needed. So I see it as a therapeutic tool to improve all of these pathways. And then over time, I want most people to land, or I find that most people will do the best with landing in a more of a cyclical approach. You mentioned eating seasonally. That's one of the ways that I talked about in that book was doing ketosis more seasonally, where naturally our ancestors would do more ketosis naturally because of food availability in the winter months, and then have fresh fruit and starchy vegetables in the summertime. So I think even a seasonal ketogenic approach could be really ancestrally good for people as well. Or some people do it around the month. Some people do it around their menstrual cycle. Some people do it weekly, doing a few days of ketosis and then carb cycling up. So many ways to, on a bio individual basis, to do that. So I like it overall, but it's one tool within the toolbox. The goal for the average person isn't to be in ketosis forever and ever, amen. And actually, you could see problems with doing that because it's a hormetic effect on the body. It's a good stress. Hormesis means a good stress. So fasting, ketogenic diet, which is fasting mimicking, is what the ketogenic diet is doing, because fasting increases that ketone too, just like the ketogenic diet. And same with saunas or cold plunges or high intensity interval training. These are all hormetic effects. So more isn't always better. You don't want to always be in the sauna, right? You would die. You don't want to always be in a cold plunge. You die. You don't always want to be fasting. You die and starve. Same with the ketogenic diet. You're not going to die, but it's at the most optimal level for you. You don't want your body to always be in stress. So it's that cyclical waxing and waning approach, pulsed approach, if you will, I find is really good. And some people need it more than others. Like people that have insulin resistance, they're going to need it a lot more than someone that isn't insulin resistant. If someone has an autoimmune issue, they may benefit from times in ketosis more than someone that doesn't have it. So it's how do you want to use this medicine? And does everybody need the medicine? So that's how I see it.
That's so interesting because I never thought about it like that. That you're basically inducing stress. And if you have illness, you already have a lot of that in you, right? But for a time period, it's like the risk helps, comes with the reward, right?
Exactly, right. It's a good stress to make your body more resilient. So you are right that if you're really sick, you want to meet your body where it's at. You don't want to cause more bad stress, but hormesis tends to be, especially for the average American, when you're talking about 93% of the United States is metabolically unwell, has a massive blood sugar problem. So yeah, I mean, the average American that's listening to this, that is not the best from a metabolic health standpoint, you're going to get more good with a ketogenic diet than bad. If I'm making generalities here, just from a statistical standpoint. But even that person, if they're going to use that therapeutic tool for a time, they're going to improve their metabolic health. They're going to lower inflammation. They're going to improve their blood sugar balance. They're going to improve their gut health if they're doing it in a clean keto sort of way. So there's going to come a time when they don't need the medicine they needed before. Like their body's better. So then you can like increase your carbs, no stress. Like there's nothing wrong with fruits. Like no one's became like diabetic from fruits. No one's became diabetic from sweet potatoes. So I don't want people to fear whole foods. But some people should have more of it. Some people should less of it. Like you mentioned, like type 1 diabetics are going to have to be mindful of their whole food carbs, even though they're healthy, it may not be the best for them. So there's some exceptions to what I just said, but I don't want people to swing into that orthorexic, obsessive keto, like biohacking problem where they're fearing whole foods. I don't think that's the answer either.
Yeah, but I see the benefit for insulin resistance because in a sense, when I was coming off of insulin, that's what I did. I went extremely keto in a sense. I was only eating fruits and not fruits, vegetables and protein. But I think eventually the lack of fruit, lack of glucose affected my liver.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Right. Right. And yeah, it does. And women, and the liver's connected to this, women need more carbs, generally speaking, than men do. There's many different pathways you could talk about that. But basically, from a thyroid hormone standpoint and an estrogen progesterone standpoint, you're going to need some carbs. Even if you're type 1 diabetic, you're going to need some carbs. If you're not type 1 diabetic, you're going to need ample more carbs because we aren't just our diagnosis. Like you're not just type 1 diabetic. You have so many variables to consider. So what may be great for your blood sugar isn't great for your thyroid and your estrogen progesterone. So then it can get confusing, but you're more complex than that. And we all are. So I want people to be mindful of not getting siloed into like, that's your thing, because you are so much more complex than whatever your thing is. So there's she wrote a blurb for Ketotarian. You would love her. I mean, she's an orthopedic pediatric orthopedic surgeon. Her name's Dr. Carrie Diulis. She's a type 1 diabetic, and she eats the way that you're saying as just a management tool. She eats like a ketotarian way of eating, which is, again, my made up word for a Mediterranean ketogenic diet. And many people that are type 1 do really well with that way of eating to keep
Yeah.
their insulin levels low or not at all. And they're using that therapeutic tool. But not everybody needs to eat that way. So a cyclical way of eating, I find from a lifestyle, I just want to feel better standpoint, I think that way works for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I think it's easy to get siloed, and I did it for a while. And it took me a minute to realize, oh, what's helping this is hurting that. And now I have to make some adjustments. And, even things that like I normally wouldn't eat bread. I reintroduced some sourdough bread that this kid makes really clean, and I just buy it from him and or a young guy.
Just some
And
random kid on the street
just a
just
random
buying
kid on the
sourdough bread.
street. Yeah. My friends discovered him. This
You don't go
sounds,
to farmers markets, but you'll go to a bread dealer on the
yeah, I have
side
my
of the
bread
street.
dealer. But I reintroduced it into my body, and I reintroduced some fruit and stuff, and I felt better. And it made a
It's awesome.
difference. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you can't get so extreme with stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, fruits, that's the problem with that ketogenic approach is that most people are fine with fruits. You can wear a CGM if you wanted to see how glucose is affected, but generally speaking, you could just be intuitive with it, and fruit is not going to be a problem when you have metabolic health. And same with honey and maple syrup and things like that. Even though there's not fiber, within reason, these whole food derivatives of sweeteners are not a problem. And again, to my earlier statement, people haven't become metabolically unwell from fruits and honey. So I think people should bring them in their diet. There's a lot of bioindividuality with that, but I think that's safe to say for the average person out there.
Yeah. And then lastly, with your diet, knowing as much as you do, are there things that are just totally cut, non-negotiable for you because it's covered in glyphosate, whether it's oats or wine or anything? Or do you just say, F it, I'm going to have a glass of wine here or there and my body will be able to handle it?
Good question. I don't drink alcohol. So I am kind of not a teetotaler puritanical zealot, but I would come across like that in a way. But I don't judge some other person that does it. For me, it's never been my thing. But I'll tell you my philosophy just as a general rule. It wouldn't involve alcohol, but which I will say this, that the healthiest amount of alcohol is none. Like there's no healthy amount of alcohol. You can get better for you alternatives like regenerative, biodynamic, organic wine, which as a pragmatist with my telehealth patients, we do bring that in for people who want to drink. So I'm not against if somebody wants to get a better for you option out there in moderation. And I would say for a time, we have people go off of it as we heal their guts and metabolism, et cetera. But my rule is I want there to be flexibility, and what I call food peace about this is that a good example for me, I'll go out to eat if I'm hanging out with my family, my wife, my kids, my friends, and I know the restaurant's serving industrial seed oils. They're not serving it, but they're
Mm-hmm.
cooking their food
Yeah.
that it's not on the like we're serving a bottle of canola oil, but that's what you're getting when you're having
Yeah.
it. I don't eat out often, but when I do, I'm not stressing about it. Now, that's my line from myself. Like, and we all need to come up with that list of non-negotiables and negotiables for ourselves. So for me, it's not the end of the world. I'm eating out. I don't do it every day. I know I'm going to have some industrial seed oils, but the context is I eat so much good, high quality fats that these random canola oil isn't going to be the end of the world for me. Now, I have some telehealth patients, if they went out to eat and they did the same thing that I did, and that canola oil would cause a GI flare up for days. For them, that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So there's so much bioindividuality with this topic of finding out what's your list of things that don't love you back, where you like feeling great more than you want that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to find alternatives. And I'm going to be different than someone else. I'm going to be different than you. So I want people to find out that list of foods that love them back and foods that don't love them back. And then we can come up with our own list.
I
And
love that.
Yeah. So for me, it's eating out with industrial seed oils. I know it's not great, but I'm going to pick the better option there and have fun and socialize and have community, which is healing and medicinal too.
Yeah. No, I love that. I really love how you explain things and the
Thanks.
better for you options and also what's going to work for you because for me, there are certain things like if I get a bad oil, I can't breathe. And it's gotten better maybe because I've really eliminated eating out for a while. And I avoid those places as much as I can. I'm like you, I really don't go out to eat. We eat at home a lot. Um so I did have a Shake Shack burger recently and some fries, which was, a once
Hey,
every 6 month situation. And I didn't
yeah.
have any issue. And I think it's
Yeah.
because I do so little of it that my body didn't have any accumulation factor in there.
Mhm.
But I
And
agree.
the other thing to think about is that point you just made is that it has to be really worth it for me. Like I'm not gonna I have to feel decent afterwards. I don't want to like pay for it after a few days.
Yeah.
And I have to really want it. So it's like I really enjoy it. It was enjoyable. It wasn't like, I'm not gonna something. If it doesn't love my body back, it has to be like amazing. Because it's like a bad trade-off, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. I love their burger and fries. It was that
Yeah.
time where I was craving it. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I enjoyed it. Didn't have any problems after, so I was fine.
Yeah.
But when
No
you think
shame.
about what's going to love me back on my list for sure is sleeping early. My body doesn't love me back if I go to bed past 9:30, 10:30. I can't
Hmm.
do it.
Hmm.
So I like creating your own list. I think that's a really good assignment for the Heal Squad is create your list
Hmm.
of what doesn't love you back. And then just remember that, but also that leniency of we still have to be social creatures. We still have to live
Yeah.
life. My dad still drinks his red wine from wherever the glyphosates come from, and he's turning 80 and he's fine. And,
Yeah.
at some point, something's going to take us. We can't live so extreme that we're not living.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I see that sometimes people overcorrect because they know too much and they really isolate themselves. It's orthorexia. It becomes orthorexic, which is disordered eating around healthy foods, which people can catch themselves. They don't realize it. It's called orthorexia. And I'm not diagnosing everybody that with orthorexia, but there's orthorexic tendencies to say the least within the wellness community, born out of good intentions. And I would say also born for many people real food flare-ups, like real food sensitivities because of the epidemic of gut health issues. But then it overcorrects and you end up fearing everything
Yeah.
because you're so afraid of having a flare-up, or you are aware of the research of this ingredient being linked to such and such. So you have to check yourself. Like, what are your motives? Stressing and shaming yourself or others around food is not good for your health. It's not good for the world.
I am so glad you said that. Kevin says that he calls himself the country doctor. And sometimes I have orthoretic tendencies. And he's like, Maria, you got to chill because
Yeah.
all the stress you're putting on trying to be perfect at this is actually doing you just as much harm as going and eating that Shake Shack burger. And so, not
Yeah.
that I'm saying Shake Shack burgers are bad for us, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Um,
eat the Shake Shack. I would get it. I'd get it
yeah.
protein style. I just get it with the lettuce wrap. That'd be fine. If I saw there's one in LaGuardia or JFK, I've done it before. I've done it
So
before.
good. The double smoke shack.
I've never had it.
The smoke
What is it?
shack, it has this cherry pepper, like hot
Oh,
peppers on there that are so delicious. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, it's my
See,
crack.
I love peppers, but talk about foods that don't love me back. Nightshades are not my jam. They do not love me back. It's not worth it for me. So I love the taste of it, but I
Hmm.
couldn't.
I
Yeah.
love it. All right. Well, I have to round out. Mother's Day's coming up, and um, if you don't have your mom like I do have to share that it is difficult, but you can honor the special motherly figures in your life. And Macy's is here to help. I already have ordered my special moms in my life their gifts, and I'm ahead on my shopping, which I'm really happy for. But Macy's Mother's Day gift list has dozens of categories, friends, to help you find the perfect gift for new moms, grandmas, pet moms. There's a lot of kind of moms out there we sometimes forget. Every type of mom is included on these Macy's Mother's Day gift lists, and you can shop at Macy's.com/gift finder to help find the perfect gift for your special mother. You can also check out my wish list that's inside the description of this podcast. Let me know what you end up with. And happy Mother's Day to all in advance. Will, I freaking love our conversations. This was so much fun. I learned
We
so
need
much.
we need to just go on the road and just do a co-hosting health. We should do that.
Let's do
Like a
it.
live event. We should do
Yeah.
that.
All right, let's plan it. I would love that.
All right. Love that.
That
All
would
right.
be so
I'll
fun.
message you.
Well, I'm going to be on the East Coast, hopefully in the summer. So maybe we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Because
I
I'll
would
be
love
out that
that.
way. All right, friends. That ends my conversation, my two-parter with Dr. Will Cole. We'll have him back on for sure because we love him and we love learning from him. But that ends today's episode. I hope that it helps you. I know I'm going to get that ancestral brand of meat immediately. I'm going to go stock all my Walmarts for it. And I love that they carry it because in Connecticut, where we live, Walmart is like the highlight. So we do all of our shopping there, and so I'm psyched that I can go there and get this really good blend of meat and just kind of the freedom that he gives us in this episode to live a healthy life, but without feeling you have to be extreme about it, which I really, really enjoyed. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, do us a favor, share it with your friends. We want to reach as many people as we can with these great messages. And then join us tomorrow for another great episode of Heal Squad and thereafter. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or mariamenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.